Hello, everybody. Welcome to another webinar of Proboxx series. Today, we are talking about expanding into new markets. And for that reason, we bring one of the brightest minds in the industry, Amy West and Rafael Berti. So Amy and Rafael, thank you for joining our webinar.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, super excited. I do believe it's super important topic to talk about. I know personally, from Proboxx clients, we can say the majority, let's say at least 80%, all Amazon sellers around the world are selling in the US market, but I think the opportunity around the world is not bigger, but it's for sure have a reason to explore and check into this new market. So we're gonna dive deep into that in a short while. For now, I just want to make a quick intro. So, Rafael, if you don't mind, I will start with Amy. So, Amy West, yeah, Amy West is the CEO of Amazing at Home e-commerce consulting, an international acclaimed company that assists thousands of brands in launching their private label products on Amazon and other marketplaces. Not only Amy is a wealth of knowledge of product development, sourcing, marketing, and sales, but she's also the co-founder of the multi-category trade show in Latin America, specific in Mexico, right? And by the way, I saw her lecture in Scale for Retail in Tel Aviv, and those that wasn't in Tel Aviv, highly recommended. On the other side of the window is Rafael Berti from Paragon. Paragon is a full agency about Rafael. Rafael is a professional Amazon expert with over a decade of experience as a seller and e-commerce professional. Now, Rafael is the founder of Paragon, a full-service agency specialized in the Amazon marketplace. Paragon is dedicated to serving customers in Europe, North America, and Brazil. He is a team of Amazon experts who are committed to delivering the best results and growth for their clients. So welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Very happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you guys for doing this in behalf of Proboxx. So let's start. How do you guys decided if you are ready to enter into a new market and why? Or what is even the reason to try to expand the new market?
I think most sellers start in the US market, simply whether they're overseas or not, simply because it is the largest market. However, when I'm working with a client, it always depends on the product, because there's some products that might be actually saturated in the US market, and there will be a better opportunity for those products in other markets. So for example, I have clients in Australia that had products in the US, like fitness products, for example, right? And those fitness products ended up becoming very saturated, very competitive in the US market. And then they brought those products back to Australia and started selling there. And they ended up #1 and beating their sales that they had in the US. So I think it really depends on, what the opportunity is of the market. I think everybody thinks, oh, I got to go into the US market, but there might be a better opportunity depending on the product, right? It always depends on the product and the market that you're going after. There might be a better opportunity in another marketplace that's closer to you, where you can actually be the star of the show, right? The big fish in the small pond. A lot of these other markets, these other Amazon markets specifically, have a lot of drop shippers on them, and they don't actually have product in those countries. So if you're in one of those countries, if you're in Japan or you're in Australia or the Middle East, Amazon.ae, that kind of market, if you're a customer shopping in that market and you don't have to trust someone to ship that product from China or wherever it's coming from, you're immediately going to rise to the top of search. If your products are located in those countries, you're immediately going to rise to the top of search. So for me, it's really about doing your market research and understanding what your opportunities are in those countries, and then understanding as well, when it's the right time to move if you're already established in the US. The other mistake that I see though, right, on the other hand, I often see people, they won't maximize their sales in the US and they start jumping to all these other countries, right? And every single country that you open up in, you now have PPC in that country. You have inventory management in that country. You have account management in that country, like with your VAT and your payments and everything else. And the overhead alone, like especially expanding to Europe, can be very high if the opportunity is not that great there yet, right? You got to grow, just like when you start in the US, it's a snowball effect. It takes time to launch and get going and get those ongoing sales and get your search presence valid across the marketplaces. So I would say be very careful before you expand that you've taken advantage of all of the market share that you can get in the current market that you're in, and then research your opportunities in other marketplaces and go one at a time, and then maximize that market, then look at the next one, maximize that market. And of course, we can always talk about opportunities to partner with people who are already in those markets as well. But I'm going to be quiet and let Rafael talk about this as well, his side of things.
No, I think it's great, Amy. You brought in a very interesting perspective from someone who's an American seller that wants to go abroad. Obviously, yes, I 100% agree. It depends on the product. It depends on what is your strategy as well. Where do you want to go with your company? Is it private label? Do you own the brand? How exactly is your structure? How much have you grown in your local market as well? But just to bring into perspective for whoever is watching, and perhaps we have people who are not from the US, and we serve many brands and many customers who are not from the US, but there is, especially the ones from Brazil and South America in general, we hear a lot. They like, it's almost like a dream. They want to sell in the US. And our question is like, okay, why? I mean, US is fantastic, but it's very large, and you can expect some high costs on advertising. There are many benefits on selling in the US. Perhaps you have a very niche product, but nobody ever heard of you. Nobody knows your brand. So sometimes, we hear it a lot. Some brands, they're very popular in the country where they're from, and then they think that they expect to get sales on the first day. Like things needs to go really fast, but nobody ever heard of you. So you have competitors in the local market as well who are more prominent. So you need to work from ground zero. You need to build up again. People need to get to know your brand first of all, your product. So this takes time. So yeah, it really depends on the product. It really depends on the strategy you want to adopt. Just before this webinar, actually, we were advising a customer. They not a customer, but a lead, and they want to help because they want to expand to Europe. And what I told him is that he already have resellers in Europe, and he wanted to find out, okay, should we open an account? Like, well, what you could do, if you have a brand already, you can just register your brand and then use the resellers. So you continue exporting to them, and we manage the account for them and all the advertising for all of them. So that's the way to bring the I'm sorry, my son is here and he just
welcome.
Okay.
Welcome.
Well, I
welcome.
mean, and I can take that from there. What you were talking about with if you have resellers in that country, or if you have people already, drop shipping, whatever, and that's what people are finding all the time, especially my private label clients. They're like, Amy, I just had one of my clients launch a new product in the baby department, and she's noticing now the pop-ups all over of like somebody selling her product on Amazon Canada, somebody selling it Amazon Europe, and she's like, wait, the price is way too high. Like this is not, this is what's going on, right? But at the end of the day, and this is something we see in Latin America, working with brands in Latin America that want to get in the US. Exactly, Rafael, you were talking about how they see this as like, this land of opportunity. And yes, it is a land of opportunity. The consumers in America are crazy, right? We love to buy things, but you got to get in front of them. It's not like you're going to just put your product out there. It's not like it was on Amazon in 2015, where you just put your product out there and it's just going to sell. So if you already have resellers, you already have people interested in that market that are going to buy your products and resell them, then set up your wholesale channels, set up your distribution channels, and focus on that and let other people bring your products to market. Because at the end of the day, when you run your numbers, and this is what we see with our brands in Latin America, our brands in Mexico that come to our trade shows that want to put their products on Amazon US, or even Amazon Mexico, or any of the e-commerce channels, they don't want to work with a partner because they falsely think, and this is completely false, and I'm sure you guys will agree with me, and I'd love to hear your take on it. They falsely think that they'll make more money if they bring the product to the market themselves. That is a false assumption. It's just like if Amazon loses our products when we get them checked in, we actually make money because we didn't have to pay for advertising, and Amazon just pays us because they lost the product, right? So you don't have to pay for overhead on those products. You don't have to pay for advertising. You sold them. So at the end of the day, even if somebody's buying from you wholesale, you're actually doing more volume and more profit than you would if you spent the overhead and the labor and the advertising to bring those products to market yourself. So when it comes to expanding to new markets, don't just think, oh, I have to do all the work. How am I going to get that? There's tons of opportunities in distributorships and reselling to open up those markets and say, hey, I've got these products, add it to your brand website, add a wholesale section to your brand website. So these resellers can find you and buy from you and introduce them to new markets.
Yeah, 100% agree. That's exactly the point. I think there are many strategies that you can use to start in a new country. And then again, of course, United States, it's an amazing market, but just giving a little bit out of the Amazon, but also the general e-commerce idea. I have personal experience with e-commerce from different countries, and you can see some amazing growth in e-commerce in different locations, especially countries in Africa, for example, which is something you wouldn't usually expect. But you can see amazing growth there. You can make a lot of money in those countries, and then
China as well. China's a great market to sell in that people don't consider. They consider sourcing from China, but they don't consider selling.
Exactly. So China, Japan, Saudi Arabia, these countries, these are areas like think about where could you sell your product? Where can you market your product? Of course. I like what you said, Amy, about just many sellers. They think, especially the ones from abroad. I mentioned the ones from Brazil because they have this like vicious thing that is just like, oh, I'll put my product on the shelf and it's gonna sell. Like that doesn't work anymore. This is not the Amazon of many years ago. Yes, now you need to advertise, and if you put on paper like how much you're going to spend on advertising in the US in comparison to other places, it's going to be very costly as well. On the other hand, if you want to export to Europe, if you want to export to other places, you might have a little extra cost on exporting your products in itself, but it might compensate. Like you don't have to spend so much on advertising. You can actually, if you don't have much competition, you can actually grow much faster and perhaps dominate the market much faster if you would try to achieve that in the United States. So it's back to the question, when are you ready? I think it's really down to what is your strategy as a brand, as a seller, what you want to do, what you want to achieve, and then where would you want to go, right? Which market would be amazing for your product? Where does your product actually fit? So there's a bunch of other things that you need to consider as well in terms of the market fit as well of your product, the culture in that location, in that market, the language, and all those things. But
we will go there later on. Yeah.
Not gonna get ahead of ourselves on this.
Yeah. I want to go back a little bit to what Amy mentioned there, like in the start of in our conversation about this issue, that you have to identify as a seller what is really your point that you basically conquer, let's put it this way, United States, if you're starting in the States and now going to the new market, maybe you can try to explain our audience how you can identify that now you're in a good place and it's time. Now it's time to try to expand to the new market. What is the right timing to do it? Because I believe it's individual per person, right? But what may be the I don't know, the criteria that you have to check yourself before jumping into the deep water?
Well, I know when a client comes to me and we're sitting on a coaching call and they say, Amy, I want to sell more. I think I want to expand. I'm going to go to, I think I'm going to take my products to Europe. I'm thinking about Japan, whatever it is. And they're like ready to go. They got the bright eyes. They're ready to make more money, And then the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, have we maximized your current markets? And how do I check that? How do I look at that? And people probably will want to know that, right? How do I measure if I've made it in my current marketplace?
Exactly.
So the thing is, when you go to sell your business, when you place your business up for sale, they're going to look at how much a potential buyer and the person who's evaluating your business is going to look at what your market share is. So a great way to check your market share is, well, there are some tools that you can check your market share with, but a great measure is for your main page one keyword. So you might have several page ones, right? But if you look at your main keywords that drive the most of your sales, and those keywords are probably what's in your title, right? That kind of thing. If you look at those main keywords and you pull up the page, I want you to look at the top competitors on that page and what their daily sales numbers are, right? So if you're and not the top brand that's selling in every single retailer across the country, like that's not how you should be measuring yourself. You should be measuring yourself up against your closest competitor. So somebody who's selling a product that's similar to yours, in a business model that's similar to yours. So you're both private label, you're both, pretty high up on the page, you're both converting, right? But are you capturing as many sales as your closest competitors on your primary page ones? So that's very easy to do. There's free tools that will show you how to do that. You can run Helium 10's X-ray tool and find out how many, daily sales. I personally love Smart Scout. I use theirs to see what the competitors are doing, and I spy on their ads. I look where they're covered, right? So step one is to look on the page, your primary page ones, look at your competitors on that page, and look at how many sales you're making compared to your competitors. Because if you were to place your business up for sale today, you would compete against them, right? That's what a buyer is going to do. They're going to look at those competitors in that same market and they're going to go, wait, this guy's selling 100 units a day and you're selling 10. What's going on with that? So once we identify if there's a gap there, if there's a room for you to grow, then we look at the factors that would allow you to grow. So first I look at the listings, I look at your pricing, I look at your reviews, I look at any quality control issues, that kind of stuff. And then next I look at your advertising. So I see, okay, what kind of a net are you casting? And I had a client the other day, she was very slow with a product in home and kitchen. And, her sales were really slow compared to when she had just first started. And we ran all these things. We looked at the closest competitors just to make sure there's room in the marketplace to grow, right? And we went, okay, some of these other people are actually doing better with nearly the same product and yours is better quality. You have better reviews. So I looked at her campaigns. She only had manual campaigns running. She did not have any auto campaigns. And I started single category targeting auto campaigns. And now she's more than doubled her sales and everything is really, really looking up for her. So sometimes it's just that little thing, that little tweak that we can make. We compare against competitors and then we ensure that we're maximizing the marketplace. So now we know, and then the last thing is I also, before we move, before we grow, I always look at your numbers. So this client, even though we are now selling out, she's about to be stocked out of this particular product, she's not restocking it because we ran her numbers, and this is not a profitable, scalable product. And a lot of sellers don't even realize that they're losing money with every sale and that they don't have profitable, scalable products. They have those sales and they see that revenue coming in. And they're like, yes, I'm growing my sales, but they're not really profitable, or they don't have a scalable product. So sometimes we'll also fix issues in your supply chain, because if you take a product that's not that profitable or that isn't scalable based on a narrow profit margin, and you grow it and we maximize it, but it's not scalable, what do you think is going to happen when you add additional overhead expenses in moving to a new marketplace, right? It's not going to fix the problem. Now you're just going to have exacerbated the problem, and it's going to be even harder. And you're going to go, oh my gosh, I have no money. You know, I'm not making any money with this business. I'm frustrated, right? So I would say that that's your number one thing, is looking at those opportunities in the marketplaces that you're in, comparing with your closest competitors, looking at where you're casting your net, how everything is looking, and then making sure, number one rule, making sure that that product is profitable and scalable. And it doesn't mean you have to give up on the product. We may be able to find a better supplier. We may be able to, reduce your costs. We might be able to, look at your volumes that you're ordering, do a better negotiation. A lot of sellers have no idea how to negotiate. So they're just paying way too much for their products. So those kinds of things can make a huge difference. We got to fix your foundation wherever you're at, and then we can expand from there, because you'll be like coming from a position of power instead of a position of weakness and wondering where all of your money went.
I think that's true, by the way, to any business. Like, know your numbers and negotiate once in a while, whatever, 3 months, 6 months, a year, with your supplier and with your vendors. So it's so critical for any business type. And from my experience, most of the Amazon sellers, especially like the beginners and the intermediate ones, have zero knowledge about their own numbers, if the product is profit or not. And I think that's the first key for any business owner, like to adjust and know the numbers.
And to be fair, all of us struggled with this when we first started. It doesn't, I have an MBA, I have a couple of undergraduate business degrees. It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that I'm suddenly an expert and I know how to run my numbers and I know how to scale a product-based business. No, so don't think we're beating you up by saying that. It's more about like, let's learn it. If you launch that product and you're going and you're starting to gain some traction, well, let's stop for a second and make sure that traction is going to move even faster and that you're going to be able to really, fix it. So there's nothing wrong with not knowing it in the beginning. That's okay, but you can learn it, and you can, these are things that all of us make mistakes on in the beginning. So we're not beating you up when we say that.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think also adding on to that as well, it comes down to a little bit of data literacy in terms of understanding the data that you get from Amazon and from your e-commerce. One of the things that we see a lot, our customers, they don't seem to, they see the data, but they don't seem to understand what that means. And sometimes they have some valuable data even coming from their own website sometimes. When it comes, for example, on choosing the next market to tackle, you could actually, for example, look at your customer database, see where you're getting the sales from, or at least where you're getting the visitors from, because that could help also direct where should be a next market for you to tackle. We are currently assisting like a brand from the UK where they reach out to us because they made a launch on their website. They realized that they started getting a lot of visitors from Brazil, a lot of people interested in their product from Brazil, even though they don't make any advertising whatsoever. They don't speak Portuguese, nothing, zero. So they reach out to us like, hey, we want to sell in Brazil. How to do that? We had no idea that our product would pick up interest with the Brazilian customers. And we also had a similar situation when someone they launched their product and suddenly they started getting a lot of visitors from South Korea. They never expected that. There's no Amazon there, but obviously they started thinking, okay, we need to do something for that country. So look at the data first of all. You don't need to make guesses. That's I think there's a rule number one in e-commerce. You need to look at your data and try to understand what you have already. You don't need to make wild guesses and go crazy on, oh, I want to expand in all of Europe, just put my product there and see what happens. It's a bit of a risky take. You can do it, that of course, but sometimes, you know, take a look first. At least make some kind of market research. You don't need to nowadays with so many tools available. Amy named a few. You don't need to hire an agency like us or anything just to do a research for you. You can actually get some of these tools and look at the market yourself. At least Amazon can give you a very good sense, a very good idea of which market would be very interesting for your product.
Yeah, and I love how Rafael is working himself out of a job. Those are the best people that I know, you know, as far as like, you know, providing that value first. He's telling you, don't hire me yet. Go over here and research it yourself. So speaking of tools, you know, I'm over here on in Seller Central. I'm logged into my Seller Central right now. And if you click on in the main menu and you go to the growth menu, and you choose Marketplace Product Guidance, you will see that there are all kinds of recommendations. So the first tab says Marketplace Product Guidance, and that first tab will walk you through which of your products are going to have good results in other countries and which countries those are. And so you can look at global demand for your products. You can click on the global demand for your products tab. And right now I see that I sell floor mats. That's I'm also a seller besides an agency owner, but I sell floor mats, and I can see that right now in Spain, I have an opportunity to sell there, and they're telling me to ship 1,600 units. The best sales period will be in December. However, the sales forecast for the next 12 months is less than 100 units a month. So that would be something for me to take into account. Like, oh, well, if I move to Spain, that's not a great, you know, option. However, they also give me the most popular keywords in Spanish, which is great. I can kind of look those up and see what's going on. I can log into Amazon Spain myself and see, you know, on the front end and use those search terms and actually look on the page. You don't even need a tool. Go to that marketplace. If Amazon's saying there's an opportunity for that product there, go to that marketplace yourself and do a search for those keywords and see what is the competition selling for, what's the prices, how many reviews do they have. Give yourself an idea based on this, because the global demand options on Seller Central are not always completely accurate. They just give you an idea, but it's a good starting point. And then the other thing is actually click on the category insights tab there. And you can see in each country, for each category, you can scroll down and choose your category. So in the UK, I'm going to choose pet supplies because I sell in pets. And I'm going to choose the category pet supplies, and I'm going to look at product type, and I'll just choose pet food. Okay. So pet food, I don't sell pet food, but I have a couple of clients that do. And bird food, I actually have a client that sells bird food. The opportunity for bird food in the UK is really, really high. The search to purchase ratio is 11%. That's not too bad. The return ratio is 0.18%, not too bad. It gives reasons for returns. It gives a conversion rate price range. There's so many insights you can get here. So something to think about is, you know, maybe there's an opportunity with your existing suppliers. So maybe you have products right now that are doing well in the US or doing well in your country, right? And you utilize this category insights tool, and you see that a product that you can get from your supplier, maybe you don't sell it yet, but that you can get from your supplier has a awesome opportunity in another marketplace.
Yeah.
What would be wrong with exploring that? Because when it comes to actually shipping and importing to a different marketplace, you're going to want it to go from your supplier direct to that marketplace. You're not going to want to take your products that are already in the US and try to now export them to
For sure.
another country. I mean, I have a product that's made in the USA, and the reason that I haven't moved it to other countries is because it is so expensive. So I would actually have to set up production there in one of these other countries in order for me to make it profitable to move that particular product from the US out. And that's one of the negatives of sourcing from the US. So something to think about. There's all these opportunities. You don't necessarily have to stick with your current products. If you want to expand, you can look at these opportunities, look at things that you already have a supply chain for, and you could very easily enter a new market with a test amount of orders where there's a huge opportunity outside of your current product lines.
Right. So let's jump into the next step. So let's say we have a product, we sell it successfully in the US or wherever. Now we want to enter into new market. How we adapt the product and the pricing into the new market? Because I'm positive that if we take like floor mat, the pricing, or I don't know, the product itself is totally different compared if you would sell it in Germany or in Japan or in Australia.
Yeah, I think in terms of pricing is a very interesting one. And you have to adjust the pricing no matter what. I mean, I worked before the agency, I worked like with taking businesses abroad. We had a proprietary solution just to take tech businesses to different countries, and especially here from Denmark. And the cost of living here in Denmark is very high. And these companies, they wanted to go to Brazil or somewhere in South America. And we're like, okay, but then at this price level that you charge here in Denmark, you forget it. You need to go really low down there.
Yeah.
And it's a similar thing. If you want to test the market as well, I mean, go to another market, you need to adapt. Talking about Europe, for example, every country here has a very different behavior. If you take Scandinavian countries, they normally pricing is not a big issue. But if you take countries like Spain, Portugal, Italy, those countries, they're usually looking for a bargain. So yeah, pricing is something that you have to adjust. And then of course, you need to look into that being profitable for yourself. I would not suggest if you just launch it just for the sake of launching your product there, if it is not a profitable business for you, right? So you would need to make a research. And then again, you can look at competitors. What's the average price that they're charging in that category? See if you can compete on that as well. But I am a huge proponent that pricing is secondary if you are a brand, because you need to make an effort. I would say you should make an effort on proposing value, bringing forward the value of your brand, the value of your product, rather than just competing on the price. The reason for that is because of course, price is important for the customer, but sometimes depending how you want to market yourself and market your brand, you don't want to go low on the price, or you don't want to just be competing on the price. You want to really maybe sell, if you're selling it like a high class level of dresses or whatever it is, any sort of product, you want to market it a little bit more expensive. But then, okay, you can do that, but you need to make sure that the customers understand that your product is really differentiated. One of the examples I had, we had a customer, and then again, it's funny. It's from Brazil. They were marketing their product in the United States, and they contacted us because they were having a huge difficulty selling their product. And I can tell you, they were selling Brazil nuts, and he was telling me that the difficulty they had is that they had to compete on the price, but their Brazil nuts were top quality, and he knows that his competitors, they're planting the Brazil nuts in Bolivia. They're not even from Brazil, but they're selling super cheap in the United States. And it's like, we cannot make that price. It's very costly. And besides, we have a superior product because our product is harvested in the nature. It's not planted. And we use the people who live in the Amazon They collected those nuts for us, and we get 10% of the proceedings, and we actually help these people to build their community. And I was like, whoa, man, you have an amazing story here for your brand, but where's that information here in your listings, on your Amazon account? Nothing. There's nothing. So from a customer perspective, all I'm looking at is your product and what I can get from it. That's it. It's pricing. So the decision for me is like, do I want to pay more for your product? Why? But if I had that story and I told them, look, if you add this story to your brand, I can guarantee you can charge more. And people will love it because maybe they're interested to help the same people that you're trying to help with your brand. Right. So you have some storytelling elements, and you're adding so much value to your product. And that obviously will reflect on the price, and people will be more willing to pay for the price that you're asking for, instead of just going there and, no, I'm going to compete on the price. If you have nothing else to offer, I would say yes, then maybe pricing is really the only way for you to compete and then make a sale. But otherwise, if you have something on your product that you think is really remarkable and sometimes or if very niche as well, make sure that you're communicating that to the customer. And then you think about the pricing, think about the other things. First is the perception that the customer will have about your branding, about your product. And so yeah, pricing is one thing. Understanding the culture, understanding the language, and understanding how the product will how people will use your product. Like we have customers, they wanted to sell what was it, something for the kitchen, but they didn't understand that they actually wanted to sell in the United States, but they didn't understand that in the United States you can buy the whole thing ready. When you buy the house, it actually comes in your kitchen already. I think it's the whole kitchen really. And then they wanted to sell it separately. Like, that's going to be very difficult to make a sale. So you need to understand how the market also works. Also, we had some people approaching us. They wanted to sell a gas stove, which they produce, they manufacture themselves. Like, that's excellent, but not many countries here in Europe, actually, this type of product is banished. Nobody uses gas for cooking. Everything is electrical here. So you need to understand your market as well, and how your product will perform there, and see how people will how people will be, if there would be any interest on your product, first of all.
So I have a remark, and then I will give the microphone to Amy to elaborate more on that. So to me, as a service provider, like, I have also clients from Israel, from the States, from Australia, from, Europe, from UK, from Germany. And eventually we're doing the same, like, we're shipping from China, from India, from Pakistan, from Vietnam, to whatever marketplace. But the real difference in connecting between the sellers in a different country is to understand their mentality and their culture, because you have to speak differently, in my opinion, right? If I have now a 30-minute session with a new opportunity seller or client, I have to understand where he's coming from and to adapt myself into his culture and to his language. So I'm positive that it's basically the same when selling on Amazon. So Amy, maybe you can elaborate on that a little bit more.
Yeah, I think that that's important, even if you're an American selling in the US market. Like, yesterday I was on a coaching call with a really awesome couple. They built a unique baby product. I mean, this thing was really, really neat, and I can't wait for them to bring it to market. But they were wondering, they were like, do we really need to be on Amazon? Like, can't we just launch this on Shopify?
Yeah.
And I said, well, put yourself in the customer's shoes. You have a baby. That baby is your life. It's everything. All you care about is trust that this product that you're buying is going to keep your baby safe. And are you going to, if you see a Facebook ad for a baby product, it's unique, it's cool, but it takes you to a website for a brand you've never heard of, and you can find that brand anywhere on any major retailer site, what are you going to do? Are you going to buy that product, or are you going to move on and find an alternative from a source that you can trust, where you can return the product without a problem, and you can hold that source accountable for if something happens to your little baby? And they were like, well, I don't think it's completely true, because look at brands like Lululemon, they're not on Amazon. They're doing really well. And I was like, well, you have one product. They have a whole line of products. I was like, but let's stick back to your category for a second. I was like, name one baby brand that you know of that isn't in a major retailer. There isn't. So it's very important that no matter what market you're selling in, that you understand how the customer thinks in that market. They're going to go through the same journey as you do when you go to buy a product, the same thought process. So if you're selling a baby product, it's the emotional connection, keeping that baby safe. It's all about trust, right? If you're selling whatever, like I had a client in Australia that wanted to sell reusable grocery bags, a very high-end version of a reusable grocery bag. And they had a brand name that had a pig on it. And not everyone eats pork or sees that as an eco-friendly kind of thing. Like, it was an eco-friendly brand with a pig on the logo, right? So sometimes there's connotations that you don't realize, right? That people might go, ooh, I don't associate a pig with eco-friendly. And oh, by the way, and then, oh, by the way, Americans, we buy our reusable grocery bags for the most part, unless it's like something a little fancier, we buy those from the grocery store. They're in the checkout aisle. We're not going to spend $20 on a reusable grocery bag that we can get at the grocery store for 50 cents.
Yeah.
So it's knowing the market, it's understanding it. And you might be wondering, well, I don't know that, Amy. How am I supposed to know? I'm not American. Well, there's plenty of consultants that you can hire that can tell you how to do that market research, that, can help you with that. So definitely do your due diligence, understand the market, understand also, my friend Yana Krekik, she owns YLT Translations, and they specialize in writing listings for different countries. And whenever she talks about this, she has a great talk that she gives about, like, Germans, for example. They're very straightforward. They don't like to be sold to. That actually kind of turns them off. So you don't just want to take your listing from English or Spanish and just translate it with Google Translate to German, because the words might be different, and they might not call that thing what you think they're calling it, the direct translation in German, right? It's the same thing in the Spanish market, right? You have to be careful about your translations and how you talk to that customer, because they could be very turned off if you say things in a way that doesn't make sense. So again, if you don't know how to speak German, then you can hire somebody like YLT Translations that has native German language speakers that understands how to translate a listing, because that's your foundation. That's going to help you get more sales. The other thing that I wanted to add to what Rafael was saying earlier is that a great way to test is to use Amazon's remote fulfillment programs. So when let's say you're selling in the US or you're selling in Europe, right? Like you're selling in Germany or something like that. So in the US, there's NARF, the North American Remote Fulfillment Program. And in Europe, there's PAN EU. And what you can do, what these programs allow you to do, is you can list your products in other marketplaces, and you don't actually have to send your products there. When they sell, Amazon will fulfill them for you. Now, where you have to be careful with pricing is Amazon's going to charge you a fee to fulfill those for you. So when you sign up for the North American Remote Fulfillment Program and you set everything up, it's going to give you that fee structure. So not only do you have to look in that market for what price you can charge, as Rafael was talking about earlier, right? You have to look and see, like, how is the price competitive? What's my story? How am I going to sell that? But then also you have to take into account that fee that Amazon's going to charge for remote fulfillment, right? So as long as you're good and you have good margins and you can make that work, then you can start selling through remote fulfillment. And if you start selling and you actually start seeing your products selling well in these other countries through remote fulfillment, then you can take that data and it'll show up right in your dashboard on Seller Central. It'll show you what sales you've made in other countries. Then you can take that data and you can go, okay, wow, Mexico is really taking off here. Like I'm selling a lot of this particular SKU in Mexico. Now maybe I should consider actually shipping it there, because then you're going to reduce that fee, right? The fee that Amazon's charging you for them to fulfill it one by one. And remember, those shoppers, they're going to see that product's available locally. It's going to be able to be delivered to them in a few days with Prime. They're going to be able to get it right away. So your sales are just going to escalate when you then actually ship products to that country for selling locally for Amazon to fulfill. But one consideration before you send products to another country is returns. How will you handle your returns?
Right.
If you can look at the return rate inside of, the global sales opportunities dashboard that we were talking about earlier, but what are you, besides VAT or whatever the tax, things are, and there's agencies that specialize in the tax stuff in every single country. So there's nothing stopping you from getting that all set up and making sure that that's profitable for you. But what are you going to do with your products when they're there and people return them? You need to make sure, and I'm sure that any tax agency that can help you get set up also has some recommendations for that. They may have warehouses there, stuff like that. I know like Global E-commerce Experts, they help you expand into the UK and into European markets, but they also have warehousing and 3PL and those kind of solutions. There's those kind of solutions in China as well. So those are some things to think about. You can test first and then before you dive in. But always, before you launch a product or before you expand and relaunch in another country, do your due diligence. Find out, about what your keywords are in that country, what your competitors are doing, what a competitive price is going to be for you, what additional overhead you might need to consider that you hadn't thought about, like fees and things like that. And make sure that you're still profitable.
That's right.
Great insight, guys. We're running out of time, so let's do the question that everybody talked today about AI. So I know Amy is a legit professional in AI in general. How you guys or you think AI can help you with market research, product selection, pricing optimization, language, advertising, and so on, using AI tools that's available today?
Oh my gosh.
In short,
if you let me talk
Amy,
about this,
yeah.
we'll be here for 3 more hours.
Yeah, that's a topic on itself. We could talk a lot about this.
We can make another one if you like. No worries.
I'll let Amy go first, and then I'll give my input on that.
Okay. Well, hopefully I won't steal too much of your thunder, because I'm sure you use it in a lot of the same ways that I do. So of course we all know our friend ChatGPT, right? We can utilize that, first of all, to translate our listings. So the translation is very, very accurate on ChatGPT. So I had a client, I always pick a brand in another country. I have a couple of programs in other countries where I'm helping those sellers access the US market. So I picked a brand in Mexico at my trade show, and I was like, I'm going to help you expand into the US market. We've been working together for a little while. And so we go to create his listing in the US, and he's already selling on Amazon Mexico. And I was like, wait a minute. My original thing is like, okay, order a listing from my website. We'll research all your keywords. We'll do all the things. Then we'll translate it into English and whatever, right? But then I was like, wait a minute, he's already selling successfully in the US. We already know his keywords because we've done the research as we're working through this launch process, right? And I was like, we can use ChatGPT. So I had a little conversation with ChatGPT, and I was like, hi, I sell this product on Amazon Mexico. I want to bring it into the US market. I want to rank for the following keywords. And oh, by the way, I'm going to give you my listing in Spanish. rewrite it for the US market, the title, bullet points, everything like that, and rank me for these keywords. And it did that super fast, and it did a great job. I've been writing listings for years, so I know, what ranks, how it works, all of that kind of stuff. So in a matter of minutes, we had it done. Another thing is your A+ content. So even if you're in the US market, you can go into your A+ content, and you should be creating listings in other languages, Turkish, and so they have Israeli and
Hebrew.
Spanish in the US market. So all you do is you can go in, and in your A+ content, it allows you to create, you can select the related contents tab, and you can duplicate your A+ content for another language. And what it'll do is it'll duplicate it, but it'll stay in English. And then you go in, you select that A+ content, and you edit it. And you can just put that into ChatGPT and translate it into the other language. This is much better. You'll reach more customers because Amazon otherwise is auto translating it for these customers, and it doesn't look good, right? So utilizing that. Also for content, if you're asking ChatGPT to help you design, for example, a landing page, it doesn't know what A+ content is. So you can ask it, help me design a landing page for this product. Tell it, about the product, and say, I'm selling it in the German market, or I'm selling it in the Japan market. I need it to appeal to the Japanese market. This is my unique selling point. Here's some information from my American listing, right? Recommend a landing page for the Japanese market, including local language and suggestions for product images. And it will give you a whole little write-up. And then you can take that and you can use AI image generation tools to then create your background images, everything like that. Add the text overlays using something like Canva. Super easy. And before you know it, you've got content in all the different countries, everything that you need, including your images. And then finally, you can also use it for video scripts. So if you want to do video ads in new countries, if you want to reach new audiences, even on social media, you can ask ChatGPT for video scripts. And then you can use a service like Pictory.ai, and it all automatically takes stock video footage. You can give it a script, and it takes that stock video footage and puts your words over it. You can add an AI voiceover that's actually really great. And before you know it, you're ranking on YouTube. You got all kinds of action for your brand in other countries, and you can really, really grow your brand super fast in that way.
Yeah, if I may add on that.
Yeah.
I think it's fantastic game. I think we're doing very similar things. But I think we're doing a little bit further than that because we've been using AI before it was a thing. My background is a bit of engineering. That's a long time. So I'm a big fan of automation. Technology has always been something that I really love. Also, from the perspective as someone who runs an agency, we have from the beginning, Paragon is almost 3.5 years old now. So from the beginning, we always try to automate as much as we could of all the tasks that we perform. And I'm a bit of a nerdy. So Amazon has an Amazon University where they publish all the papers and all the studies that they're making. And we know for a fact that Amazon is being working with AI for a long, long time. This goes back to 2012, maybe earlier than that. So we know that Amazon also uses AI for a bunch of things and machine learning and all that. So we also we wanted to do, from my perspective, I don't want to hire people to do what we call the donkey work, just like filling up spreadsheets. We don't want that. We want to bring the intelligence. We want to bring the knowledge here. So we try to automate as much as we can of all the tasks that we perform for our customers, including those for Amazon. And what we're doing in terms of AI, I love AI. First of all, I really love it. I like I said, I love technology. However, I'm still very skeptical of technology. So we never leave 100% in the hands of AI. So we can help, we can use, for example, AI to help on the bidding automation and all that. However, everything that we do that uses AI or any sort of automation, we have a human doing quality control. We never leave this running on autopilot. We don't do that. And we are developing a few systems into the AI. Of course, we use ChatGPT. It has greatly enhanced our performance in terms of speeding up, especially creating product descriptions and all that. But as I said, it also depends, like, I'll give you a real example that we have. And also we were talking about expanding to a new country. We feel that, like, whenever we ask ChatGPT to make a product description for us, and it's very salesy, very American style, that is in a style that might work really well for the United States. But if you bring it to countries like Sweden, for example, that's a big no. It's not going to work. It doesn't communicate well with the audience. The Swedes don't like to be sold like this. If you're too salesy, that's a no. So you need to be careful with that. Even though the translation, yes, I agree, it's fantastic. It's actually much better than any other tool for translation. Still not 100%, but it's very, very, very good. And I'd rather trust ChatGPT for translation than using any other tool, especially the ones from Amazon themselves. But in any ways, what we're doing in terms of AI, right now we're developing some kind of an oracle that we want to make it available on our website. So we are basically training on all the Q&A, everything that Amazon sellers have in terms of questions for Amazon. We want to have an oracle where people can just type in their questions and it will give you the answer or very close solution to what could be a solution to your problem. And we're also working with some kind of a kind of automating our the whole bidding strategies and some of the things that we already do. We're also using artificial intelligence on that as well. Obviously, also understanding the reports from Amazon. We're also trying to get some AI on that too. One of the things that we're doing, we expanded. We're kind of expanding. It's not out yet, but we're doing some tests. We actually have. We partner up with a company where we have some modules that we can install on your Shopify, actually any kind of e-commerce website, and we can greatly improve your performance. So we've been seeing websites that were doing like 1% conversion rate overall. Certainly they go up to 6, maybe sometimes even 10% conversion rate in the whole website. And so that's all AI picking up, the same way that Amazon, they uses AI to track what are your interests, not just like picking up on what you're already doing, but also trying to understand before you predictive AI. So it predicts what would be the next product that you would be interested to buy. So we kind of bring the same thing into your website as well. So basically trying to bring the same Amazon experience into your website. So this is some of the things that we do. We're having great experience with that. And yes, I think AI, but we're not doubling down on all of this because I know, and for sure, Amazon will be using some of this generative AI to probably for the creatives on the Amazon ads. At some point, we're going to see some kind of generative AI for images as well, some kind of text. But this is going to be, we're watching. We want to see what Amazon is going to do before we go full on this.
AI, I can say from Amy and myself and you, I think AI is another topic just to have one full video on that, because I think I have a lot of knowledge to share. Amy for sure has a lot of knowledge, and you as well. But nevertheless, guys, it's time to wrap up this webinar. I would like to thank you very, very much for the insights and the knowledge you provided here for Proboxx users, basically. Also, I would say that Amy and Rafael are generously offer great offers for Proboxx audience. That will be in the description of the YouTube video that we published for this webinar. And again, thank you for your time, guys. It was amazing. Pleasure to meet you, and hopefully to see you soon.
Likewise, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Amit. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Likewise, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Amit. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.